All right, let's talk Los Angeles Rams. We're getting to that point in the offseason where we can feel the regular season getting closer and closer. We're seeing all the new Los Angeles Rams mixed with the veterans and, of course, the coaching staff to look at what this team is going to be for this upcoming season. But there's one guy, almost a forgotten guy under the radar, that based on some recent news is starting to emerge. It looks like the Rams have pulled off a massive steal. We'll get to all that in just 1 second. But first, I am Nick, that is Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, this is the time of year, obviously, for every NFL team, and certainly the Rams, where the rookies, whether they be undrafted free agents or draft picks, are making a lot of noise, making a lot of headlines, and we're starting to see how these new additions are going to integrate into their football team. We're starting to see what teams have pulled off great draft steals, hidden gems, that kind of stuff, and the Rams are no different. We've covered a lot of such stories with the Los Angeles Rams this offseason. They do a great job through the draft. They're one of the best, maybe the best in the National Football League. We're big fans of what the Rams do through the draft process, but maybe the biggest steal the Rams have made over the past 12 months or so hasn't had to come through the draft. It was the addition off of waivers of young cornerback Emanuel Forbes, who's taken massive strides forward. In fact, the Rams have made some moves that indicate they are very high on this player as a future key contributor. Let's get into these two articles real quick, and then we'll get to some data on the other side. This first report is courtesy of Pro Football Talk, highlighting the Rams releasing a veteran quarterback, Darian Kendrick. From the report, the Rams announced that they waived Kendrick on Friday afternoon. They signed veteran offensive tackle DJ Humphries, don't really care. Kendrick was a 2022 sixth-round pick by the NFC West club. He started 18 of the 32 regular season games he played in his first 2 seasons, but missed all of last season after tearing his ACL early in training camp. The interesting thing here is that when this move was announced, a lot of people on social media said, oh, this is clearing the deck for Jalen Ramsey. They want to go acquire Ramsey. And look, that still may happen. But the reality is you don't cut a player in anticipation of adding another player. You cut a player after you've added that player. This is the time of year you can do that, right? You're not hammered to be down to your final 53. You can have 90 people on your roster right now. So you could trade for Jalen Ramsey and then cut a player the same day if you wanted to do that. The only reason you cut a player now is if you personally believe you're already good at that position and you want to fill that slot with someone else, which they did with DJ Humphries, right? So this is a move right here, not necessarily that they want to clear the deck for Ramsey, but that they are big believers about the guys they currently have in place, and that, of course, involves Emanuel Forbes, which leads us into the second article underneath, courtesy of the Turf Show Times. Sean McVay recently spoke about Forbes' growth physically and as a player. Yeah, I think he has. Director of Strength and Conditioning, Justin Lovett, and his group do such a great job. Forbes is bulking up. By all accounts, he is, by the way. McVay isn't just saying this. There's a lot of reports that he's gotten bigger and stronger, more physical. Looking good, but I think what's been awesome is, and we talked about this at the very beginning, having an understanding of what we're trying to get done. So he has bought into what the Rams are trying to do. He's fully ensconced in this franchise, fully ensconced in the program, also becoming a bigger, stronger football player as well. Emanuel Forbes, coming out of college, was considered a very top prospect, and we'll get to some great data in just a second. He is a guy that had a lot of potential, but people were critical of his size and his frame, and we saw some issues early in his career. He goes to the Los Angeles Rams, has 1 start last season, and has grown through this offseason. And we talk about this all the time on this channel. We like to think about players, people in the media, fans, all that kind of stuff, like it's like a video game, right? Your rating as a player, you're a 70, you're an 80, whatever it is. That's just who you are. You're just static. That's not the case. Players grow, players improve, players get better and better, and the Rams are one of the better programs in the National Football League in evaluating and addressing and putting players in positions where they can grow and improve while also putting them in positions to be successful. And that's what we're seeing with Emanuel Forbes this offseason in terms of fixing his weaknesses and becoming a key contributor for Los Angeles. Because if you go back to Forbes's collegiate performance at Mississippi State and compare him against some of the best cornerback prospects in recent memory, he does pretty good. In fact, let's pull up a chart here just to highlight what I'm talking about. This is comparing Emanuel Forbes versus Travis Hunter as a defensive back. Travis Hunter, the Heisman Trophy player, phenomenal player. And you can see Hunter's 2024 season and Forbes' 2022 season, they're nearly identical. Like, it's almost exactly the same quality player. I think Hunter actually has a slight edge over grades here. We've got overall grade in blue on the left and coverage grade on the right, courtesy of PFF. I think Hunter has a tiny little edge. It's really hard to see on the graph there, but they're basically the same player. So think about that for a second. Let's take a step back. If Hunter has solved his physical issues in terms of his frame and he's bulked up, and if he's understanding the defense, he's bought into the program, his talent level is Travis Hunter. There is a chance here, we'll have to see how it all shakes out, folks, that the Rams have added Travis Hunter essentially for their defense for nothing. I'm going to say that again. The Rams may have added Travis Hunter this offseason for nothing. That is bonkers. That is insane. We're not there yet. We're going to have to see some proof on the field when we get through training camp, preseason, regular season. But based on the trend, if you listen to McVay, if you listen to other reports in the Rams, and you look at the data, it's clear that the Los Angeles Rams may have added a generational cornerback prospect and got him off of waivers. We talk about steals. We talk about hidden gems. This may be the biggest example of one we've seen in recent NFL history. This is a great sign for the Rams. And I'm just say this one more time, just so that we're very clear. It's early. I get it. I understand. But there is a good chance the Rams this offseason have added Travis Hunter for nothing. All right, Miles, I know you've got a few thoughts on this. But first, Rams fans, the Ramley, if you will, in the comment section below, we're talking corners. So now I'm going to ask you guys, who is, in your opinion, the best cornerback in Rams history? It's kind of an interesting question. I know we can go a couple different directions, but I'm going to make you pick one. Who is the best corner in Rams history? Let us know in the comment section below. But Miles, over to you now. What are your thoughts on everything going on with Emanuel Forbes and just the Rams organization right now?
Yeah, Nick, I think this is kind of important because I think, in the offseason, we all focus a little bit too much. Everyone wants to know about the rookies. Everyone wants to know about the young guys. And I think that's the thing you bring up is the most important thing that we talk about a lot is that these players aren't just, stagnant. When you bring a guy in, what their ability is, as it doesn't stay the same. It changes. You can go both ways. You can regress or you can progress. And a lot of these guys end up, getting better. They're, going through different phases, team by team, what system you're in, everything. There's a lot of different factors that come into play. And a guy like Emanuel Forbes, he was such a high-level prospect coming out of school. Very, very talented guy. But kind of gets forgotten a little bit. Has up and down seasons, couple injuries, and people quickly forget about you, but you go to a good team, and we know one of the best teams in all of the NFL as far as developing talent is the Los Angeles Rams. They just do things different. So if there's any team out there that I think can get something different out of Emanuel Forbes than their teams in the league can, it's definitely the Los Angeles Rams. This is a team that seems to be able to get the best out of all their players. They have some of the best ideas. They have some of the best ways that they line guys up. They use people to their strengths. Heck, they had two guys they drafted last year. Both were contenders for Defensive Rookie of the Year. That's how good this team is at doing things like that. So I think Emanuel Forbes is in the best situation possible for him. I think the Rams, again, even though they got a guy off of waivers, they got a guy that could be a massive get for them. A steal, so to speak. I don't know if you can have steals off the waiver wire because that means people passed on him in front of you. So he fell into their lap, so to speak. But this is a team that I think can utilize Forbes, get him to a really high level. And like you said, I think that's the key. You're not going to cut a DB on this team unless you already have guys in place to fall in line. Yes, maybe they still go after Jalen Ramsey. That's very possible. But you're not going to, you don't count one bird in the hand's better than two in the bush. You're not going to say, all right, we're just going to go ahead and cut this guy in hopes that we go get Jalen Ramsey. No, you cut the guy because you say, we may go get Jalen Ramsey, but if we can't get him, Emanuel Forbes is a guy that is just as good for us as far as we feel confident that he can be a starting corner on this team. And I think that's important here for the Rams. It seems they have a great plan. I think this is the best situation for Forbes and the Rams. I think this is going to be a home run. I think people are going to say, oh, yeah, I remember that guy in college. I didn't know he was on the team still, but now starting to show up and show out, and I think it's going to be a really big get for the Rams.
And let's not forget, as good as this Rams team was, when healthy, of course, they had some issues early in the season when were pretty ravaged by injuries, to be honest. But when healthy, they were a very quality football team with one clear weakness, and that was coverage. According to PFF, they have the 21st great ranked coverage grade in the entire National Football League. They ain't going to get it done. A lot of the playoff teams, in fact, the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles had the best coverage grade in the NFL in 2024. You need to be able to cover players. Now, the Rams were able to kind of cover that up a little bit because they had such a great front seven, thanks to some of the guys you alluded to in your commentary. But I think going forward, if you want to be a championship team, if you want to defeat teams like the Lions, you want to defeat teams like the Eagles, if you want to, maybe it's the Packers in the postseason or whoever it may be, right? You're going to have some guys that can cover and make some plays. It's just what it comes down to. You got to have good corners to win the National Football League. The Patriots proved it for years. Obviously, the Eagles just proved it. The Chiefs have proved it. Heck, the Rams showed it. And we go back to their title a few years ago. They had great front seven guys. Of course, Aaron Donald leading the charge, but you still need quality corners on the back end to cover it up. And I think that's one thing the Rams have been looking for this offseason. And there is a great chance, I'm going to go back to the data, that Emanuel Forbes can be that guy. He was a first-round pick for a reason. And that was including the fact he had a tiny frame, tiny relatively speaking for his position. Of course, he's obviously a grown man. I'm not trying to degrade him in any capacity. But the fact that he's reportedly improving that frame, he looks bigger, stronger, thicker, has addressed that issue. He was a top 15, top 16 pick with that question mark. He has solved that question mark for the Rams. His data coming out of school is absolutely redonkulous. This has a chance to be a massive win. I think it will be a massive win for the Los Angeles Rams. And it's transactions like this. People look at the Eagles, bringing them up again, and they sit there and say, oh, Jalen Hurts is a superstar, and what they're able to do that, all the great draft picks, and that's fair. The real reason the Eagles won the Super Bowl last year, if we're being totally honest, is they got an NFL Defensive Player of the Year quality performance from linebacker Zach Baum for the cost of like $2 million in salary, and they got Saquon Barkley having a 2,000-yard rushing season at the cost of like $6 million in terms of salary, right? Incredible amount of value versus the cost. That's what the Rams are looking at here with Emanuel Forbes. Now, again, we'll have to see how it shows out on Sundays. I'm not going to go ahead and anoint him the next Barkley or anything like that in terms of value for a team. But so far, so good for the Rams and Emanuel Forbes. And I'm excited to see what this kid can do in the back end of this Rams defense.